My pleasure. Been a while. Oh, put me on the spot. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think here. How did I describe myself? Yeah, I'm fairly quiet, but no, I enjoy gaming quite a bit. Via video games or tabletop. Um, Tried to introduce it to my kids, but they seem to gravitate more towards cooperative games. So those kind of things. I would like to try to get them into some RPGs and just sort of see what they think. Um, X, we've got quite the collection of games we've collected since I've gotten older. Anyways, when I grew up, it was mainly card games and Uno and those kind of things. Maybe Monopoly and a couple other like tabletop sort of um, mass-produced kind of games. Yeah, but as I got older, it was interesting. Like my wife and I sort of discovered other games. Like there was a whole world of games out there that we could play. Um, yeah, one of the games that sort of I think sort of triggered us into playing more. It's not Eldritch horror, but it's a sort of an HP Lovecraft style card game. Its name is evading my memory. It's been a while since we played it. You play it with dice, and it was different. Like you're working together. A lot of games are competitive, like Monopoly and Scrabble and that kind of stuff. So it was sort of different to be like us versus the game. Castle Panic was another one that's another simple but interesting dynamic of a game. That was another favorite. But yeah, our collection's grown. We've played everything from like large sort of pseudo RPG games to like I play miniature games with X-Wing. So the variety has definitely expanded immensely over the years. Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, everything. And the nice thing is some are simple games, right? Like I don't know if you've ever played Love Letter, but I think there's 12 cards in the deck, and that's it. Um, and you're trying to. Oh, I'm trying to remember how it works, but that's a fun little game. It's quick, right? Like I think it's 15, maybe 20 minutes to play around. Um, so yeah, and it's easy enough to get the kids in on. I've got a Batman version of it, so the cards are all themed. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I've heard it's sort of been like Catan actually is sort of like the it was a little bit of the catalyst for the board game sort of renaissance. I was trying to think back to when I first started, um, because it's been a while. It's been on and off. But um, yes. So I was looking through, like I kept a bunch of material that I had, because most of my introduction was online. My GM was, I went to university with him, but then he moved away, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this role playing game group?" And some of it was about 10 years ago, is what I can tell. And we played Savage Worlds based system, and I believe one of them, like the theme was more of like a Indiana Jones kind of like treasure hunter kind of theme. But the one that really stuck in my mind more than anything else was he did a homebrew Ghostbusters um, setting. And he came up with rules for how the proton packs worked, how you found the ghosts, how the traps worked. So there was um, like you had to like work together, obviously, um, to catch the ghost and then hold it long enough to get into the traps. And Um, we were sort of like a ragtag group. I think it was four of us that played the game, and we were sort of just upstart Ghostbusters. So we had like this broken down building that we were sort of working out of, like very similar to the movies, right? Um, I wish we would have continued it. We only did, I mean, we did quite a few sessions, but we only sort of did like the first arc of the story. Um, but that was my introduction to role playing was Savage Worlds, is the game system, anyways. Yeah, no, I enjoyed Savage Worlds for its simplicity. Um, and I think it's a great way to introduce, I would say it's a great system to introduce people to RPGs. For that reason, because it's not about crunching numbers and thick rule books. Um, like I do own a copy of the rule book, and it's maybe like a third the size of like D&D. And that's the full rule book for like the GM and the players. Like it's a very concise system, but you can. And the nice thing is it's theme agnostic, um, and for the most part. So because I've done sort of a sci-fi-ish, and I've also done like I played a one shot at where was it now? RPG Con or whatever it's called that they've had in Prince George. Um, yeah, NPC Con. That's what it was. And yeah, someone ran a Savage Worlds one shot, and it was sci-fi, um, and it worked perfectly fine. Like it's, um, yeah, no, I enjoy it. Yeah, no, I've played 5e. That's another place where you and I both played some games. Yeah. I enjoyed 5th edition. I'm in a group right now. We're playing 5th. Um, and it's I like the simplicity, but there's enough crunch that it keeps me like my brain engaged with the rule set. Um, yeah, I know as a player, my introduction to D&D was I think made it a little bit easier because it was 5th. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. No, the variety I think is key. I think to the community to thrive, um, because one size doesn't fit all in a lot of areas of life. And I think it's the same thing with RPGs, right? Like some people love the crunchiness of RPGs, and they might not find that in 5th edition D&D, whereas they might in Pathfinder or something like that, right? So no, I think it's important, and I like the variety too, because like if I played only 5th edition games, I think I'd probably grow tired of it. But I don't think I've got Starfinder. I've played some 3.5 edition of D&D. Um, yeah, so there's the variety. I think is super important to keep people engaged and just add some variety to like the different the games that you play. Yeah, I think that's the other thing that's beautiful about RPGs is the variety, even just through the GM or DM that runs the game. Like I've had four different GMs or DMs, if you want to call it that, um, over the years, and yeah, they all bring something different to the table, which I think is what keeps me. Another thing that keeps me engaged in the games is like it's just that variety again, right? Like it's well, I think pacing is always like in any art form that's moving, anyways. Either a movie or audio or role playing, right? Like it's keeping that pace um, is important, right? Like sometimes you don't want to be like all action, and then other times you don't want to be all sort of role playing. Um, uh, well, I know with board games, it's just because of the people I usually play with. It's just family. I usually look for cooperative games, like I mentioned earlier. So I'll see a game. Sometimes it's just the series ends up being really good. Like the Forbidden Island. There's the Forbidden series of tabletop games that my family quite enjoys. So we've got Island, Desert, Sky wasn't that great, but Jungle is the latest one that came out. So we sort of looked at the box, went, okay, for the most part, we love these Forbidden games and the style of play. So we just, we picked it up from the local game store. Um, yeah, it's all sort of themed. But I've played everything from like card games. Like I played Original Magic when it came out 30 years ago. Um, I also played the Star Wars CCG because it was Star Wars. So that sort of drew me into the original Star Wars card game that came out in the 90s. Um, some stuff is it's the theme, like X-wing miniatures. I was like, oh, I get to play with TIE fighters and X-wings. I'd never played a miniatures game before in my life, and I'm like, this looks cool. And so, yeah, exactly. So it was a friend of mine in Cornell that actually he's like, hey, I got this game. You want to give it a try? It's Star Wars. And so I bought a TIE Advanced V1, no X1. Yeah, because I played Darth Vader was the first pilot that I put on the table. Because you have to. So I had one ship, and I think he took two or maybe one or two other ships, and we played on his kitchen table. So that was my introduction to X-wing. I now have thousands of dollars worth of ships, so so it's a different. Things have changed over the years, and I've actually traveled for games. Like we've gone down to the Lower Mainland for X-wing. So um, yeah, I did okay. Yeah, so yeah, it's all over the place. Like sometimes, a lot of times, it's theme. I have to say, if I had to weigh everything, um, because I do have a few like H.P. Lovecraft sort of Eldritch themed games at our house. Because they're I don't know, something about tentacles and mystery is interesting. So but I think I gravitate to more like to simpler games, um, not super simple games. But if the rule book is a little too thick, and there's too much to remember, I know I think I lose interest. Like I've played some games that are so and that's where like YouTube and there used to be a YouTube channel there, Geeks and Sundry, that had like the Geek and Sundry, yeah, that had the oh, what was it called now? Tabletop. Was it called just called Tabletop? It was Will Wheaton that ran the and that was a great series. I'm really sad that that sort of died off because they covered everything from like X-wing miniatures in one episode to like you name it. Oh yeah, yeah. Some fundamentals that are the same. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I have not, but I have considered it though. I don't know if I got the right personality for it necessarily. Um, yeah, no, I've played a few, and I've looked at there was a FFG had like a Star Wars. So again, going back to themes, um, role playing game. Well, that's the only thing I don't like about it is that it's special dice, right? So it's sort of like everyone needs to have special dice. Um, but the other one I was looking at was I think it was RPG Day. They had a Cthulhu and Nazi themed role, like a sort of one or two sessions or whatever kind of setting, and that one looked pretty funny. Just given that it's a strange combination, right? Um, so yeah, no, it looked. I think it was like Actung, or I forget. It was like I forget the name of the. It's just, it sounds like a series of almost like one shots of in that sort of vein. Um, but yeah, I've thought about it, and I've had people say, you got the creativity part. It's just a matter of putting it together with the rule set and coming up with a story. So yeah, well, I think looking at the GM sort of like the role that they play, I think it's a little daunting for some people, and I know that's how I feel about it a little bit. Is you're setting the pace, you're setting. Um, Usually, you have to be a little bit more up on the rules, um, that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, no, I've got the interest. It's just a matter of getting the nerve to make the jump. A lot of RPGs actually. Haven't been a lot of tabletopping other than X-Wing. Um, so I'm in three different groups for RPGs. I'm in the Starfinder group with you, uh, Attack the Swarm, and then Tales of Sorostir, um, which is D&D 3.5. And then I'm also in. We wrapped up the Scavengers of the Grey D&D group. We're actually playing Heavyweights the Heart, which I think is slightly homebrewed um, D&D 5e campaign, um, which I'm a ranger, just sort of an interesting uh, type to play. And I've got an infinitely refilled latte that I carry around. So there's a little bit of humor going on in that group, which is great because we use some AI art generation to like create characters, and I just typed in like I just typed in handsome elf, um, and it gave me an elf holding a latte with blonde hair and a bow, and I just stuck with it. I had to run with this magical latte. So um, so as a bonus action, I can sip my latte during fights. Yeah. So no, nothing too serious, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the social aspect is is drawing me the most to the RPGs right now. More than anything else, it's just hanging out with people, having a good time. I think no, no, and that's the beautiful thing I think about the groups I'm in is that they're all fairly happy people that are excited to be there, and excited to run the game, like yourself. Um, so that positivity, I think, is I don't know, it's something that keeps me coming back for more. Um, and and even though our X-wing group is small, um, it's a pretty good group of guys. Um, so again, I enjoy bringing my stuff to the table and rolling some dice and pushing some minis around. It is nice to get away from the rat race for sure. There is something to be said about being like 10 minutes from your game store, 10 minutes from your RPG GM's place. It's sort of nice to be able to. You're not in a rush, right? You just sort of go and enjoy the game for what it is. if that. Same here. Thanks for having me on.